February 23, 1966. Phuoc Tuy Province, South Vietnam. The jungle breathes in the pre-dawn darkness, a living, suffocating presence that swallows sound and light with equal indifference. Captain Barry Peterson of the Australian Special Air Service crouches motionless in the undergrowth, his fingers resting lightly on the stock of his L1A1 SLR. Around him, 5 other SAS troopers have melted into the vegetation so completely that even from 3 feet away, they're invisible. They've been here for 6 hours. They'll stay for 6 more if necessary. Peterson's eyes track movement on the trail below. A Viet Cong courier, young, maybe 19, moving with the confidence of someone who believes he owns this jungle. He's wrong. For the past 40 minutes, Peterson and his patrol have been tracking him backward, letting him pass their position, then following his trail in reverse to find where he came from. It's a technique the Americans haven't yet grasped, and it's about to demonstrate why the Australian SAS will earn a reputation that borders on mythical. The VC courier stops. Peterson's breathing slows. The young man is 20 meters ahead now, listening to the jungle's morning chorus, the calls of gibbons awakening, the rustle of leaf litter as monitor lizards begin their daily hunt. He hears nothing unusual because there is nothing unusual to hear. The Australians don't move. They don't exist in this moment except as extensions of the jungle itself. What the courier doesn't know, what none of his comrades have yet learned to fear, is that the Australians have already mapped his entire network. They know where his base camp lies. They know how many fighters are there. They know because they've spent 3 weeks moving through this province like ghosts, learning the land better than the people who've lived here for generations. This is the fundamental difference that American forces are about to discover, though the lesson will cost hundreds of lives before it's learned. The U.S. approach to jungle warfare in early 1966 is built on firepower and mobility. Insert by helicopter, patrol aggressively, make contact, call in artillery and air support, extract. It's a doctrine designed for European warfare, adapted hastily for Southeast Asian jungles. It's also getting soldiers killed at an alarming rate. The Australian SAS operates on a different principle entirely, one forged in the jungles of Malaya and Borneo, refined through years of counterinsurgency operations against communist guerrillas who knew their terrain intimately. The Australians learned a simple truth. In the jungle, the side that moves first usually dies first. The side that makes noise dies. The side that fights on the enemy's terms dies. So they developed a methodology that seems almost paradoxical to conventional military thinking. Instead of patrolling aggressively to find the enemy, they move with excruciating slowness, sometimes covering less than a kilometer per day. Instead of seeking contact, they avoid it until the moment is precisely right. Instead of relying on firepower, they rely on fieldcraft so refined it borders on supernatural. Peterson watches the courier continue down the trail. He makes a subtle hand signal, 2 fingers down, then a circular motion. His patrol understands instantly. They're going to let this one go, but they're going to follow his trail backward to find the camp he came from. Then they'll watch that camp, learning its patterns, its routines, the times when sentries change, the moments when guards are least alert. They might watch for days. They might watch for a week. And when they finally strike, it won't be a battle. It won't even be a fight in any conventional sense. It will be an execution, precise and surgical, carried out with such speed and silence that nearby VC positions won't even know anything has happened until they find the bodies hours later. This patience, this almost inhuman discipline is what American officers are about to witness when the first joint operations begin in March. And it's going to shatter everything they think they know about jungle warfare. The courier disappears around a bend. Peterson waits 5 full minutes before moving. When he does, his patrol flows through the jungle like water, each man spacing himself perfectly to maintain visual contact while remaining invisible to anyone more than 5 meters away. They're moving backward along the trail now, reading the signs the courier left. A broken twig here, a scuff mark in the mud there, the faint depression where he paused to adjust his pack. This is the technique that will soon have a name among American forces, spoken with a mixture of awe and frustration. Going feral. The Australians don't call it that. They don't call it anything. It's just how you survive when the enemy knows the terrain and you don't. You become part of that terrain. You learn to think like the jungle, move like the jungle, kill like the jungle, silently, patiently, without warning. March 15th, 1966. Task Force Oregon Forward Operating Base, Bien Hoa Province. Lieutenant Colonel Robert Rowe stands in the Tactical Operations Center studying the map with growing frustration. Red pins mark confirmed Viet Cong positions. Blue pins mark American patrol routes. The patterns should intersect. American doctrine demands aggressive patrolling, constant pressure, denying the enemy freedom of movement. But the pins tell a different story. The red ones keep multiplying. The blue ones keep ending in medevac requests and body bags. In the past month alone, his battalion has lost 23 men killed and 71 wounded. The kill ratio is hovering around 1.3 to 1. Barely better than even. For every Viet Cong they confirm dead, they're losing nearly one American. It's unsustainable, and Rowe knows it. What he doesn't know yet is why. Outside, the morning air thrums with the distinctive whop, whop, whop of Huey helicopters lifting off for another patrol insertion. Captain Michael Brennan leads his company of 120 men toward the landing zone, each soldier carrying 60 pounds of equipment, ammunition, water, and rations. They move in a column, boots crunching on gravel, M16s held at the ready, talking in normal voices about last night's poker game and the mail they're expecting. The Hueys come in low and fast, rotors kicking up clouds of red dust. Brennan's men load up with practiced efficiency. 12 men per bird, weapons pointing outward, nervous energy radiating from every face. Most of these soldiers have been in country less than 4 months. They've been trained to fight in this jungle by instructors who learned their tactics in Korea, or worse, from training manuals written for European forests. The flight to the insertion point takes 9 minutes. Below, the jungle canopy spreads out like a green ocean, unbroken except for occasional bomb craters and defoliated zones. The door gunners scan for targets, M60 machine guns ready, but they see nothing. The VC are there, intelligence confirms it, but they're invisible from the air. They're always invisible until they open fire. The landing zone is a small clearing hacked out by engineers 2 days ago. The Hueys flare in fast, and Brennan's men jump out before the skids even touch ground. They spread into a defensive perimeter exactly as trained, by the numbers, by the book, following doctrine that's been refined over decades of conventional warfare. Within 60 seconds, all 12 helicopters have dropped their loads and are climbing back towards safe altitude. Within 90 seconds, the jungle is silent again except for the fading rotor noise. Brennan checks his compass and signals his platoon leaders. The mission is simple. Patrol southeast for 3 kilometers, sweep through a suspected VC staging area, establish an ambush position along a known supply route, spend the night, then extract at first light. Standard search and destroy. They've done variations of this mission a dozen times. They've also been ambushed on 5 of those missions. The company moves out in patrol formation. Point element ahead, main body in the center, rear guard trailing. They're making good time, covering ground at a steady pace, staying alert but not overly cautious. The jungle here is thick but navigable, the undergrowth cleared in places by foot traffic. Trails crisscross the area, some obviously used by local villagers, others by VC forces. Brennan's orders are to follow the larger trails when possible, maintaining speed and cohesion. It's exactly what the Viet Cong expect them to do. 300 meters to the west, a VC platoon leader named Nguyen Van Thao sits in a spider hole listening to the Americans crash through the jungle. He doesn't need to see them to know exactly where they are. He can hear their equipment rattling, their boots breaking branches, their radio operator talking on the handset. The Americans move through the jungle like water buffalo, loud, obvious, following predictable paths. Thao has been fighting in these jungles for 4 years. Before that, he fought the French. He knows every trail, every clearing, every place where the jungle thickens or opens up. He knows where Americans like to establish ambush positions, near trail intersections with good fields of fire, close to water sources. He knows because they always choose the tactically obvious locations, the places that make sense according to their training manuals. He signals his men with a series of clicks on a bamboo clapper, 2 short, 1 long. The sound blends perfectly with the jungle's ambient noise. 30 VC fighters, positioned in a carefully prepared L-shaped ambush, settle deeper into their positions. They've been here since yesterday, living in holes covered with vegetation, not moving, barely breathing. Some have had scorpions crawl across their legs. Others have had ants swarm over their hands. None have moved. This patience, this willingness to endure discomfort that would drive Western soldiers insane, is the VC's greatest tactical advantage. They don't need to win battles. They just need to make the Americans bleed consistently, grinding down morale one patrol at a time. Brennan's point element walks into the kill zone at 11:47 hours. The first indication of danger is a wire across the trail, a simple tripwire connected to a Claymore mine that was captured from an American position 6 weeks ago. The point man, Private First Class David Torres, spots it a half-second too late. His boot catches the wire. The Claymore detonates with a flat, crushing boom, sending 700 steel ball bearings through Torres and the two men behind him. Before the echo fades, 30 AK-47s open fire from the jungle on both sides. The ambush is perfect. Textbook VC tactics. The Americans are caught in the open, trapped on a trail with thick jungle on both flanks, taking fire from two sides. Men go down in the first 3 seconds, others dive for cover that doesn't exist. The radio operator is hit twice before he can call for support. Brennan is screaming orders, but his voice is drowned out by gunfire. His training kicks in, assault into the ambush, breakthrough, establish fire superiority, but the jungle is too thick. His men can't see the enemy positions. They're firing at muzzle flashes, at sounds, at nothing. For every shot they fire, the VC fire 10. The engagement lasts 7 minutes. When the VC finally break contact and fade into the jungle, Brennan has 6 dead and 14 wounded. His company is combat ineffective, pinned down, waiting for medevac helicopters and gunship support. The VC casualties are unknown. They carried away their dead and wounded, leaving nothing but blood trails that disappear into the undergrowth. That night, in the Task Force Operations Center, Rowe adds more red pins to his map. The pattern is becoming impossible to ignore. American units are getting mauled by an enemy they can barely see, much less kill. Something has to change. Across the base, in a tent marked Liaison Australian Training Team, Captain Barry Peterson is writing his daily report. His SAS patrol returned this morning from a 3-week operation. 4 enemy supply caches destroyed. 17 confirmed VC killed. 2 POWs captured with valuable intelligence. 0 Australian casualties. The Americans are about to ask how. March 22, 1966. Australian SAS training area, Nui Base. The first thing that strikes Lieutenant Mike Brennan when he steps into the Australian compound is the silence. No radios blaring, no soldiers shouting across the camp, no unnecessary movement. The SAS troopers moving between tents do so with an economy of motion that seems almost choreographed. Every step deliberate, every gesture minimal. It's unnerving. Captain Barry Peterson meets him at the entrance, hand extended. He's shorter than Brennan expected, maybe 5'9", with a lean frame that suggests endurance rather than raw strength. His handshake is firm but brief, no wasted energy. Captain Brennan, heard about your contact last week, rough day. Brennan nods stiffly. The ambush cost him 6 men and nearly ended his career. The after-action review was brutal. Colonel Rowe made it clear. Adapt or be relieved. Hence this visit to the Australians who've been operating in Phuoc Thi Province for 2 months with a kill ratio that seems statistically impossible. 37 confirmed enemy KIA, 0 Australian losses. Your colonel asked us to show you how we operate, Peterson continues, leading Brennan toward a briefing tent. Fair warning, what we do isn't glamorous. It's not what you learned at Fort Benning. Most American officers watch our methods and think we're crazy. Or cowards. Inside the tent, 5 SAS troopers sit on ammunition crates, cleaning weapons with meticulous care. Each man has stripped his L1A1 rifle down to components, checking every spring, every pin, every surface for dirt or wear. The cleaning isn't casual, it's almost ritualistic. One trooper, a sergeant named Davis, is using a toothbrush to clean the bolt carrier group, scrubbing with an intensity that suggests his life depends on it, because it does. Gentlemen, this is Captain Brennan, U.S. Army, Peterson announces. He's going to patrol with us for the next week. Brennan, these are the men who'll keep you alive if you listen to them. If you don't listen, they'll leave you behind. Nothing personal, just can't afford to compromise the patrol. Brennan feels his jaw tighten. He's a decorated officer with 2 years of combat experience. The suggestion that he needs babysitting stings. But he's here under orders, and his dead soldiers deserve better than his pride. First lesson, Peterson says, pulling out a map. Forget everything you know about patrolling. Your doctrine is built on speed and firepower. Ours is built on patience and invisibility. You move fast, you make noise. You make noise. Charlie hears you. Charlie hears you. Charlie kills you. It's that simple. He traces a route on the map, a seemingly random path that zigzags through the jungle, doubling back on itself, avoiding obvious trails and clearings. We don't patrol to find the enemy, Peterson explains. We patrol to avoid being found while we're finding them. See the difference? Your companies insert by helicopter, crash through the jungle, and hope to make contact. We insert by helicopter, then spend 2 days moving 300 meters to our actual area of operations, using a route specifically designed to confuse anyone tracking us. Sergeant Davis looks up from his rifle. Americans patrol like they own the jungle, sir. Respectfully, you don't. Charlie owns it. He was born in it. His father died fighting the French in it. You're visitors. So you need to act like visitors in someone else's house. Quiet, careful, watching where you step, Peterson nods. Second lesson, speed kills, not the enemy. You. When you move fast, you miss signs, tripwires, punji stakes, fresh dig marks that mean mines. You also make noise, branches breaking, equipment rattling, heavy breathing. We've tracked American patrols from 200 meters away just by sound. If we can hear you, Charlie can hear you. He gestures to Davis. Show him the drill. Davis stands, slinging his rifle. We call it tactical movement, but it's really just walking like a human being evolved to walk before we invented roads. Watch. He takes a step forward, but the motion is unlike any patrol movement Brennan has seen. Davis's boot comes down slowly, toe first, testing the ground before committing his weight. His eyes scan the earth ahead, tracking every twig, every leaf, every shadow. His next step takes 5 seconds, then 10. He's moving at perhaps 1 meter per minute. This is how we move in high-threat areas, Peterson explains. Sometimes slower. We've spent 6 hours covering 50 meters when we knew enemy forces were close. Your soldiers would go insane. They're trained to cover ground, accomplish the mission, get back to base. We're trained to survive. Brennan watches, calculating. At that speed, you'd never reach your objective. We have mission timelines, operational requirements. And you have body bags, Davis interrupts not unkindly. Sir, with respect, we reach every objective. We just reach them alive. And when we get there, we own them completely because we've moved so carefully that Charlie has no idea we're in his backyard. Peterson pulls out a series of photographs, aerial reconnaissance shots of Viet Cong base camps. Third lesson, and this is the one that's going to sound completely backward to your training. We don't hunt the enemy. We track them to their home, then we watch. Sometimes for days. We learn their routines, their sentry patterns, when they sleep, when they eat, where their weapons are stored, which leaders give orders. He taps one photo. This camp, we observed it for 4 days before we hit it. We knew the camp commander slept in the third hooch from the left. We knew they changed sentries at 200 and 600. We knew they kept their ammunition in the bunker on the eastern edge. When we finally assaulted, the entire action took 90 seconds. 17 enemy KIA, 2 captured, 0 Australian casualties. They never saw us coming because we'd become part of their environment. Brennan shakes his head. My orders are to patrol aggressively, deny the enemy freedom of movement, maintain pressure. And how's that working? Peterson's voice is sharp now. Your battalion has lost, 30 men in 2 months? Your kill ratio is barely 1-to-1. You're not winning, Captain. You're dying at the same rate you're killing. That's not warfare. That's mutual destruction. The tent falls silent. One of the SAS troopers, a corporal named Wilson, speaks up. It's not criticism, sir. It's just facts. Your doctrine works great in Europe or Korea where you can see the enemy. Bring in armor and artillery. Fight on your terms. But this jungle, this is Charlie's terrain. The only way to beat him here is to become better at jungle warfare than he is. And that means unlearning everything your army taught you. Peterson points to Brennan's equipment. Fourth lesson, noise discipline. Your webbing rattles, your canteen sloshes, your dog tags clink. Your weapon sling has metal clips that scrape against branches. Every piece of gear you're wearing announces your presence. We tape everything. We wrap everything. We eliminate every sound source. Watch. He demonstrates, moving across the tent. His equipment is completely silent, no rattles, no scrapes, no metallic sounds. It takes an hour to prepare for patrol. Your men throw on their gear and go. That hour of preparation saves lives. Davis stands again. Last demonstration before we go out tomorrow, sir. This is the one that American officers hate most. Sergeant Wilson. Track me. Davis walks across the tent normally, boots hitting the floor with regular footfalls. Wilson follows easily. Then Davis switches to the tactical movement, slow, deliberate, each step carefully placed. He reaches the tent entrance and steps outside into the muddy ground beyond. Wilson follows to the entrance, then stops. Lost him, sir. Ground's too churned up from the rain. His tracks blend with everyone else's. Davis reappears from behind a water tank 6 meters away. That's the point. When we move tactically, we don't leave clear tracks. We step on rocks, logs, hard ground. We avoid mud and soft soil. We think about what we're leaving behind. Your patrols leave tracks Charlie could follow blindfolded. Peterson checks his watch. We insert at Oro 500 tomorrow. 7-day patrol. Deep reconnaissance. You'll carry 40 pounds, maximum any more, and you can't move quietly enough. You'll move at our pace, which will feel impossibly slow. You'll see us do things that violate every tactical principle you learned. And if you survive the week without getting us killed, you'll understand why we fight backwards. Brennan feels anger rising. Fight backwards? That's what your soldiers call it, Peterson says with a slight smile. Because we track the enemy in reverse, because we retreat before advancing, because we avoid contact instead of seeking it. It looks like cowardice until you see the results. Come back in one piece, Captain, and maybe you'll teach your battalion something that keeps them alive. March 23, 1966. 447 hours. Landing zone blue, 12 kilometers northwest of Nui Dat. The Huey comes in dark and fast, barely clearing the tree line before the pilot kills the throttle and drops like a stone. Brennan's stomach lurches as they fall the last 10 feet. The skids hit hard. No gentle touchdown, no hovering, just impact and immediate liftoff. The whole insertion takes 8 seconds. Before Brennan can fully process what happened, the helicopter is gone and the jungle swallows them in absolute darkness. Peterson doesn't move. Neither do the 5 SAS troopers. They sit in complete silence where they landed, listening. Brennan starts to shift his position, and Davis's hand clamps on his forearm like a vice, a clear message. Don't move. They wait. Minutes stretch into eternity. Brennan's legs cramp. A mosquito lands on his neck and feeds. He doesn't swat it. Around them, the jungle slowly comes back to life. The insects resume their chirping. A night bird calls. Gradually, the soundscape rebuilds itself, confirming what Peterson already knew. No enemy forces heard the insertion. After 45 minutes, Peterson makes a hand signal Brennan can barely see in the darkness. The patrol rises as one, movements synchronized and silent. They don't head toward their objective. Instead, Peterson leads them northeast, perpendicular to their actual target area, moving with that impossibly slow tactical pace Davis demonstrated. Each step takes 5 to 10 seconds. Each man checks his front, sides, and rear in a constant cycle of awareness. The sun rises at 0612, light filtering through the canopy in scattered shafts. They've moved perhaps 200 meters from the landing zone. By American standards, it's absurdly slow progress. By SAS standards, it's perfect. They've left minimal trace, made minimal noise, and anyone tracking them from the landing zone would now be following a false trail. At 0730, Peterson signals a halt. The patrol forms a tight defensive circle, each man facing outward, weapons ready. They wait another 30 minutes, listening for any indication they've been followed or detected. Nothing. Only then does Peterson alter course, turning south toward their actual objective, a suspected Viet Cong supply cache identified by Signal's intelligence 3 days ago. Brennan is already exhausted, and they've barely begun. The mental strain of moving this slowly, of maintaining absolute silence, of checking every inch of ground before stepping, is more demanding than any forced march he's endured. His jaw aches from clenching, his shoulders burn from holding his M16 in constant ready position. By noon, they've covered less than a kilometer. Peterson calls a halt in dense undergrowth. No one speaks. They communicate entirely through hand signals and subtle gestures. Davis passes Brennan a canteen, wrapped in cloth to eliminate sloshing sounds. The water is hot and tastes like plastic, but Brennan drinks carefully, controlled sips that won't make noise. At 13:20, Wilson freezes. His fist goes up. Immediate danger signal. Every man becomes a statue. Brennan's heart hammers, but he forces himself into absolute stillness. Through the vegetation, he hears voices, Vietnamese voices, casual conversation, maybe 30 meters away. The VC are moving along a trail the patrol would have intersected if they'd continued at their current pace. The voices grow closer. Brennan can see them now, 3 VC fighters, AK-47 slung casually over shoulders, talking and smoking. They pass within 15 meters of the Australian position. One of them stops less than 10 meters from where Brennan crouches and lights a fresh cigarette. The man stands there for 90 seconds smoking, looking directly toward the SAS patrol. He sees nothing. 6 armed men, fully exposed in sparse undergrowth, are invisible because they've become part of the landscape. Their camouflage isn't just fabric, it's absolute motionlessness, proper use of shadow and light, faces painted to break up human features, equipment positioned to eliminate silhouettes. The VC fighter finishes his cigarette, grinds it out under his boot, and continues down the trail. Peterson doesn't move for another 20 minutes. When he finally does, he doesn't continue toward the objective. Instead, he signals a direction change. They're going to follow those VC fighters in reverse, tracking their trail backward to find where they came from. This is the technique that American forces find most perplexing. Instead of pursuing the enemy, instead of calling in their position for artillery or airstrikes, the Australians track them in reverse. They're hunting the hunter's home, not the hunter himself. The VC trail is clear once you know what to look for. Broken twigs at knee height, scuff marks in the soil, disturbed leaf litter. Peterson follows it with absolute confidence, but he moves even slower now, knowing they're heading toward an enemy position. Hours pass. The afternoon heat becomes oppressive under the canopy. Sweat soaks through Brennan's uniform, but he doesn't wipe his face. Any movement could compromise them. At 16:40, they find it. The supply cache is hidden in a natural depression covered with vegetation and camouflage netting, but Peterson doesn't approach. He signals the patrol to defensive positions in a wide circle around the cache, each man 60 meters out, invisible in the undergrowth. They're not going to raid it. They're going to watch it. The wait begins again. Brennan lies in the prone position, weapon pointed toward the cache, unmoving. Ants crawl across his hands. A centipede explores his boot. He doesn't react. This is the test Peterson warned him about. Can he endure the discomfort, the boredom, the crushing tedium of professional soldiering when professional soldiering means lying motionless in dirt for hours? At 18:23, 3 VC fighters approach the cache. They're relaxed, confident in their security. They never look for observers because in their experience, Americans make noise, move fast, and can be heard coming from hundreds of meters away. The idea that enemy soldiers could be lying in wait, invisible and silent, within 50 meters of their position is beyond their tactical framework. Peterson doesn't signal an attack. He watches. The VC removes supplies from the cache, ammunition boxes, medical supplies, bags of rice. They talk casually, and though Brennan doesn't speak Vietnamese, he can tell they're discussing mundane matters. One of them makes a joke. The others laugh. They're human beings comfortable in what they believe is their secure territory. After 30 minutes, the VC load their supplies and move off to the southwest. Peterson signals, same routine, track them backward, find where they're going, learn the network. This patrol continues for 6 more days. They follow trails in reverse, observe enemy positions from impossible distances, map an entire VC logistics network without firing a single shot. On the 4th day, they watch a VC base camp for 18 hours straight, noting every detail. The commander who sleeps late, the sentry who dozes at his post at 0300, the weapons storage bunker that's positioned poorly, the escape route that leads northeast toward the river. Brennan learns to move like Davis, to think like Peterson, to see the jungle the way Wilson does, as a living intelligence test where the price of failure is death. He learns that patience isn't passive. It's the most aggressive tactical choice possible when your enemy owns the terrain. You don't fight on their terms. You make them fight on yours, and your terms are absolute invisibility until the moment of violence. On the 7th day, Peterson makes the call. They've learned enough. The patrol infiltrates to within 70 meters of the VC base camp at 0230, moving so slowly that it takes 3 hours to cover that distance. They position themselves with overlapping fields of fire, each man knowing exactly which targets are his responsibility. At 0400, when the sentries are at their least alert, Peterson gives the signal. The assault is simultaneous and devastating. 7 VC killed in the first 3 seconds, including the commander in his hooch. The others wake to find death among them. Invisible killers who appear from nowhere, fire with impossible accuracy, and vanish back into darkness before coherent resistance can form. The SAS patrol is gone before the VC reinforcements arrive 10 minutes later. They're already 300 meters away, moving on a pre-planned exfiltration route, leaving nothing behind but bodies and terror. The extraction helicopter picks them up at 0630. Brennan climbs aboard, his hands shaking from adrenaline and exhaustion. 7 days of the most intense physical and mental strain he's ever endured. 0 Australian casualties. 14 confirmed enemy KIA. An entire VC logistics network mapped and ready for systematic destruction. As the Huey climbs toward base, Peterson leans close to be heard over the rotors. "Now you know why we fight backwards, Captain. We track them in reverse because the path they leave going home is the path to their destruction. We retreat before advancing because patience buys perfect positioning. We avoid contact because the fight we choose is always the fight we win. Your battalion wants to kill VC fighters. We want to kill VC networks. One method trades bodies. The other method wins wars." Brennan nods, too exhausted to speak. But his mind is already racing, calculating how to translate these methods to American forces. The kill ratio doesn't lie. The Australians have found something profound in these jungles, not just tactics, but a complete philosophical reversal of conventional warfare. Hunt backwards, move slower, see more, strike once with absolute certainty rather than many times with hopeful aggression. Within 3 months, American MACV-SOG units will begin adopting these techniques. The results will transform unconventional warfare doctrine for the next 50 years. But for now, in this moment, Brennan simply closes his eyes and lets the helicopter carry him home, knowing he'll never patrol the same way again. The war will continue for another 9 years. The politicians will lose what the soldiers learned to win. But in the jungle, in the silence between heartbeats, the lesson remains eternal. In someone else's terrain, the hunter who waits becomes the killer who survives.